Tim Leffel here, author of A Better Life for Half the Price, your guide to living a rich life for a lot less money just by changing your address. Today we're going to talk about the cheapest places to live in Latin America. So why Latin America? Well, if you're American or Canadian, it's the obvious choice because flight prices are pretty reasonable. You can stay in the same time zone. The whole region has a lot going for it. From Mexico all the way down to the bottom of Argentina, you can speak one language for one thing and get through any of those countries. So unless you're moving to Brazil and you need to learn Portuguese, you can learn Spanish and you're set for a lot of places. So this is where I live in Guanajuato, Mexico, a UNESCO World Heritage Center founded in the 1500s, beautiful old Spanish colonial city. You can rent a place here for anywhere between $300 and $800 a month. And that has not changed since I first came here in 2010. It's actually cheaper now in a lot of respects than it was back then, thanks to the dollar appreciating. But you could live at the beach. There's plenty of beaches to choose from in Mexico. You got thousands of miles of coastline. But it's a bargain, it's close, it's cheap, and they give you 6 months as a tourist. So you don't even have to get a residency permit if you want to go in and out. Next up is Guatemala. A country of jagged mountains and beautiful lakes and interesting countryside. Most of the expats here live in Lake Atitlan or Antigua, but there's lots of other places to choose from. Lots of cool villages around that will not cost you much. And you've got Mayan ruins all over the country, places like Tikal and this one, which is just a few hours from the capital city. And Guatemala is quite a deal. You can easily live on less than $1,000. And hey, maybe even a shaman will tell you your fortune for the future. Next up, let's head to Nicaragua. This is for sure the cheapest place in the Americas, but it's been a little politically dicey the last couple of years, so just keep an eye on the news before you decide to move there. You might not want to buy something right now in Granada, which is where this picture is from, this video. It's, the income requirement here is super cheap. You don't have to show a lot of income, but you got a lot to choose from once you get here. There's some beautiful beaches. This is on the Caribbean side, the Corn Islands. This is Big Corn Island, and the next one you'll see is Little Corn Island. But you've got beaches all around Nicaragua that are very enticing. You could easily live for less than $1,000 here. If you want to live as a couple for $1,500, you could do okay. If you're willing to spend $2,000 here in San Juan del Sur, you'll have a sweet life indeed. There's lots of great beaches around. This is just a few of them, but you can find your own spot yourself. This is Honduras. Speaking of beaches, Roatan Island, a popular spot for expats for at least 3 decades now. And you can find plenty of beaches on the mainland as well, and there's lots of great hiking opportunities, lots of nature. You've got the Copan ruins in Honduras, which are definitely worth checking out. And you can easily live on less than $1,000 here, but you might want to avoid the 2 biggest cities because they are some crime-ridden places that you don't want to live in. Next up, Panama City. This is not as much of a bargain as the others if you're going to live in the capital, but you can get outside of Panama City and live quite well for less. There are plenty of people living here for $1,000 or $2,000 a month that are having a good life. Panama makes it very easy for you to get a residency here. So you can become a permanent resident in the first year that you're there, and it's not a difficult process. So consider Panama because you've got a variety of climates. It's a dollar economy. There's some beautiful nature, hiking opportunities, and adventure activities. Lots of good coffee you can drink, and booze is cheap. So it's a duty-free economy. Hey, we've entered South America and now we're in Colombia. That's Medellin, the most popular place for sure for expats. with nice weather all year. But there are plenty of beautiful places all around the country. This mountainous Andes country has beaches, mountains, beautiful drives. It's easy to get around. There's a good airline infrastructure, good bus infrastructure, and Colombia is actually cheaper now than it was 15 years ago, so another reason to go there. It's reasonably easy to get a residency permit if you want to live in Cartagena, the walled city, where this is, or if you want to be at the beach, this is also Cartagena. There's a cluster of countries that are together that are all a pretty good deal. Peru, Ecuador, and Bolivia. This is a popular backpacker circuit for travelers. It's a popular circuit for tourists, and all three of them offer very good prices if you want to go live there. Bolivia is the cheapest, but it's probably the most difficult in terms of getting a long-term visa. You have to pay $160 just to come into the country as a tourist. It's the only one left in South America still charging this. So you're going to pay up front even if you just go for a visit. If you want to stay and get a long-term visa, it's going to be more difficult. I would definitely live in Bolivia for a short time as a digital nomad, probably coming in on a tourist visa, but not dealing with the legendary bureaucracy. This is Sucre, which is a nice city. I bought all this here for $3, beers and snacks. There's some beautiful hiking in the country, especially in the south. And of course, you have the salt flat, which the country is best known for. There's a lot of beautiful things to see in the desert south of there. Peru is very popular as a tourist destination, not as popular as a place to live. That's because they make it rather difficult for you to stay there long term unless you're a retiree. If you just want to live there part of the year, though, it's quite easy. You can get a tourist visa for 6 months upon arrival, and you're good for 6 months. You don't have to leave the country. However, you can't just leave and come back when that's done. You need to leave for 6 months before you return. So in other words, you can only stay 6 months within a 12-month period before you can come back again. So it's a good place to stay for a few seasons, not such a great place to stay long term, unless you're going to go through the process of applying for a long-term visa. However, prices are quite good, especially if you get out of the tourist areas. Peru is one of my favorite countries in the world. I've probably been there 5 times. I'm sure I'll go back a few more times. There's such beautiful ruins to explore, wonderful scenery, and great hikes in the area. So much history to explore. It's really got it all. I've hiked all through the Andes there and seen some amazing places, glacier lakes and lagoons and snow-capped mountains, and I get excited every time I'm getting on a plane to go there. I will probably make it home at some point, and I'll ride the train. There's not many of these in Latin America, but you can ride around Peru on a train. The most popular place to live in South America by far, for retirees anyway, is Ecuador. They have great incentives for living there. It's very easy to get any kind of residency permit. It's easy to stay there as long as you want. You only have to show an income of $800 a month, so you can live very well without a lot of money there, and it's very easy to qualify. You get all kinds of perks if you're a retiree, like discounts on flights and buses and things like that. It's a dollar economy, it's fairly stable, and there's not much inflation there, so you can kind of lock in prices and know what to expect. So what do people think of when you mention Ecuador? Well, the Galapagos Islands, of course. That's the big tourist draw. So people think about getting up close and personal with animals like this. It really is a fantastic experience, and even mothers with babies don't care. But there's a lot more to the country, including some intense jungle up north, where you can go exploring in the Amazon basin and see all kinds of wildlife. But the main reason people move to Ecuador is because it's a great bargain. Even if you live in Quito, the capital, you can easily get by on $1,000 a month, or maybe $1,500 for a couple. If you're spending a couple grand here for one person, you're living well. The most popular spot is Cuenca. That's where a lot of the retirees end up. But there are lots of places like Vilcabamba and baños and the beaches. So you've got lots of options in Ecuador. Our last stop on the cheapest place to live in Latin America is Argentina, home of tango, Malbec, Buenos Aires, red wine. Lots of great reasons to choose a country like this. There's some beautiful countryside and lots of variety in the places that you can visit and you can live. This is Bariloche in Patagonia. There are places like that, and then there are also places like this, dry, hot, uh, arid places with lots of crazy rock formations, some interesting hikes to explore, some beautiful countryside. And of course, Argentina is also home to Iguazu Falls. So you've got a lot of variety to explore in this country, and it's a bargain these days. It goes up and down there a lot, but right now it's a great deal. Your dollars or euros are worth a fortune. And if you love red wine and red meat, you're going to be in heaven in this country.